She loved her sister like a mother, but the betrayal she never saw coming shattered her world. What happens when the one you raised turns against you with cold cruelty? Stay till the end to witness a story of love, heartbreak, and the unstoppable power of truth. Rain poured hard the night the river swallowed Lendoro. The wind howled, houses crumbled, and lives were lost. In the chaos, two little girls clung to each other under a broken bamboo roof. Alma was just 12, but her arms wrapped tightly around her baby sister, Binta, only 3 years old. Their parents had died trying to save them. Their bodies later found near the riverbank. The village mourned, but the girls had no one left. No uncles, no aunties, just each other. From that moment, Alma became more than a sister. She became a mother in a child's skin. She wiped Binta's tears with her own tattered scarf, cooked maize on a borrowed stove, and stood barefoot in the sun to sell it by the roadside. She was a child raising a child, but never once did she complain. Her eyes were always tired, her hands always busy, yet her heart stayed soft. When villagers asked why she didn't go play with the other girls, she would smile and say, "Binta needs me. I have no time for games." Every morning before sunrise, Alma fetched water, boiled porridge, tied Binta's hair into tiny braids, and walked her to the village school. She waited outside the gate, sitting on stones, sometimes under the rain, just to make sure Binta was safe. While other girls dreamed of love and dresses, Alma's only dream was to see Binta become someone big, someone important. Her sacrifice was silent, but deep. When food was scarce, she gave Binta the last piece and drank water instead. When Binta asked for toys, Alma carved dolls from old cloth and banana stems. The villagers began calling her Little Mama. Some pitied her, others respected her, but no one helped. She was always alone, standing strong like a tree in a storm. She sold maize during the day and washed clothes at night. Binta never knew how hard Alma worked. All she saw was her big sister smiling, braiding her hair, singing lullabies at bedtime. Years passed. Alma grew lean, her fingers calloused from labor. Binta grew taller, smarter, and brighter. She always topped her class, and Alma would burst with pride, clapping with joy at every school event. When Binta said she wanted to go to the city and study more, Alma sold her only goat and gave her the money without a second thought. Before Binta boarded the bus to Ayanda, Alma held her close and whispered, "Never forget who you are, and never forget who you have." Binta nodded, tears in her eyes, clutching the food Alma had packed. She promised to call every day. She promised to return with success. Alma stood waving until the bus disappeared, her heart full of hope, unaware that life was about to test that love in the cruelest way. She believed their bond was unbreakable. She believed Binta would always remember who held her when the world turned dark. But some hearts change in silence, and some promises melt under city lights. Every morning before the sun rose over the dusty hills of Lendoro, Alma was already on her feet. She walked miles to the market with a basket of roasted maize balanced on her head, her slippers worn thin and barely holding together. Her toes bled sometimes, but she never complained. If she had to choose between new shoes for herself or for Binta, she chose Binta every single time. Her clothes were faded, her hands rough, her stomach often empty, but she smiled through it all, because her little sister was well-fed, well-dressed, and happy. At school, Binta carried neatly packed lunchboxes, not knowing her sister had skipped breakfast and lunch to make it happen. At night, while Binta slept peacefully, Alma stayed up grinding maize, patching up old dresses, or washing laundry for neighbors to earn a little extra. Her body was tired, but her spirit stayed strong. She wanted more for Binta, a better life, a better future. The elders in the village often whispered behind her back, "She's getting old. She needs a man to take care of her." Others said it to her face, "Alma, find a husband. You can't raise a child forever." But Alma always gave the same reply, firm and calm. "Binta is my future. When she shines, I shine." She had no interest in love, parties, or rest. Her entire world revolved around one person. Binta grew, and so did her dreams. She was brilliant at school, always the first in class, always winning prizes. Alma would stand at the back during school ceremonies, clapping the loudest, tears shining in her eyes. She never pushed Binta to say, "Thank you," never reminded her of the sacrifices. She just stood there, proud and quiet. Then came the big news. Binta had won a full scholarship to study at a top university in Ayanda, the capital. Alma sat down slowly when she heard it, as if her legs couldn't hold her joy. That night, She cooked Binta's favorite meal, borrowed money to buy her a new dress, and sat with her under the moonlight, just watching her smile. She didn't sleep that night. She stayed up sewing a travel bag from old fabric and packing it with care. On the day Binta was to leave, Orma woke up before dawn, made warm tea, packed her food, and brushed her hair gently, like a mother would. As the bus arrived, Orma hugged her tightly. Her arms shook, her lips trembled, but she didn't let go for a long time. "Make me proud," she whispered into her ear, voice full of love and hope. "Study hard. Don't forget who you are." She kissed her forehead gently, like a blessing. As the bus drove off, Orma stood alone, watching it disappear down the dusty road. She didn't cry in front of anyone, but that night, under her old blanket, she wept softly, not out of sadness, but out of love. She believed Binta would remember. She believed her sacrifices would bloom into something beautiful. Ayanda was nothing like Lendoro. It was loud, fast, and full of lights that never went out. For the first time in her life, Binta walked on clean streets and entered classrooms with air conditioners. Her uniform was neat, her shoes new, and her bag carried books that smelled fresh. She adjusted quickly. She watched how the city girls walked, talked, and laughed. They painted their nails, curled their hair, and sprayed sweet perfumes. They had soft hands, delicate voices, and no trace of the village on their skin. Binta learned fast. She started changing her voice, softening her accent. She practiced in the mirror, imitating her roommates. "Don't speak like a bush girl," one of them told her with a giggle. And slowly, Binta stopped. She didn't talk about maize cellars, broken slippers, or her sister waiting in Lendoro. When asked about her family, she smiled faintly and said, "My parents passed. I was raised by some kind city people." No one questioned it. They assumed she came from a quiet, middle-class life. She let them believe it. Orma wrote her every week. Short letters filled with love, prayers, and little stories from the village. How the mango tree finally bore fruit. How the neighbor's baby took his first steps. How proud she was every day. But Binta never replied. She read them once, then stuffed them into the bottom of her drawer. When her roommates saw the name Orma, they asked, "Who's that?" She shrugged. "Just someone from the village." That was all she ever said. When Orma called, Binta often let the phone ring. If she picked up, her answers were quick. "I'm in class. I'll call you later. I'm busy." But she never called back. She hated how Orma's voice reminded her of who she used to be. The barefoot girl holding a lunchbox she didn't pay for, with braids done by tired hands and lullabies sung under leaky roofs. In Ayanda, Binta had a new life. She was invited to dinners. Boys complimented her skin. Professors praised her intelligence. The city gave her everything Orma had dreamed for her, but in return, she gave the city her loyalty and buried her past like it was shame. She avoided village stories, never posted photos of Lendoro, and never told her friends about the sister who once sold maize in torn slippers so she could go to school. Binta began to believe the new version of herself. She looked in the mirror and saw a polished, confident girl who didn't belong to the dusty streets of Lendoro. When Orma asked on the phone, "Are you okay?" Binta replied flatly, "I'm fine." Then silence. Orma would pause, waiting for more, but Binta would end the call quickly. "I'm busy," she'd say again. Always busy. She didn't know Orma waited by the roadside every Sunday, hoping for a call that never came. She didn't see the letters Orma still wrote, now smudged with tears, still full of hope. In the shine of Ayanda, Binta forgot the hands that once held her world together. Alma had never left Lendoro before, but for Binta, she was willing to face the unknown. For 2 years, she saved every coin she earned from selling maize. She skipped her own meals. She patched her worn wrapper again and again. When her last goat fell ill, she sold it for less than its worth, just to add to the saving. Every night she looked at the calendar, counting down to Binta's graduation. Her heart beat with pride. "My Binta is becoming someone," she'd whisper to herself, smiling through the hunger. When the day finally came, Orma left before sunrise. She walked half the journey on foot, then paid for a crowded bus with the little money she had left. Dust clung to her clothes, and her slippers tore halfway, but she kept walking. She held a small basket of roasted groundnuts she made for Binta, wrapped with care. Her heart was full of joy, imagining the hug, the surprise on Binta's face, and the moment she'd say, "You made it because of your strength." Finally, she arrived at Ayanda's university. It was grand, big buildings with glass windows, students with headphones, laughing, dressed in clothes Alma had only seen in magazines. Her feet trembled as she walked to the gate. She looked around, searching. Then, from a distance, she saw her, Binta. She was wearing heels and a red dress. Her hair bounced as she walked with her friends, laughing like nothing in the world could touch her. Alma's eyes sparkled. She raised her hand and called, "Binta!" But Binta saw her. She paused for a moment, then quickly turned around and disappeared into the crowd. Alma waited. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Her basket became heavier with silence. That evening, just as the sun began to set, Binta came. She looked around nervously, then walked toward Alma, her face tense. Alma's face lit up. "My child," she began, but Binta cut her off. "Alma," she said in a low voice, looking around as if someone was watching. "Don't ever come here again." Alma froze. She blinked, unsure she heard right. "You don't belong here," Binta said quickly. "This is my new life. I've worked hard to be someone here. You showing up like this, dressed like that, it will ruin everything." The words hit Alma like a slap. She looked down at her wrapper, her dusty feet, the basket she had carried for miles. "I just wanted to see you graduate," she said softly. "I can't let people see you," Binta whispered, almost angry. "Please go." Alma nodded slowly. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She simply turned around and walked away. Her steps were heavy, her heart heavier. She walked past the same buildings, the same streets, but now everything felt cold. She had come with pride. She returned with silence. Behind her, Binta stood still, arms folded, face blank. In her mind, the city was her future, and Alma was just a reminder she wanted to forget. The next morning, Alma returned to the university gate. She hadn't given up hope. Maybe Binta had a bad day. Maybe she would change her mind. Alma stood at the same spot, holding the small basket she didn't get to give the day before. But this time, 2 security men came out quickly. "You again!" one of them barked. Alma tried to explain. "I'm her sister. I just came to see her graduation." But before she could finish, they grabbed her arm roughly. "You were warned," the other said. "Leave before we drag you out." Alma's voice trembled as she tried to plead, but they shoved her outside the gate. Her basket fell, spilling the groundnuts onto the pavement. She knelt to gather them, tears filling her eyes, but nobody helped. The students walking past just stared. Some even laughed. Inside the university, Binta sat with her fiancé, Kwayo, a well-dressed, wealthy man from a prominent family. He had found a picture online, a blurry photo of Alma standing at the university gate. He asked, "Who is this woman? She's been showing up here asking for you." Binta's heart skipped a beat, but she smiled coolly. "She's a mad woman from my village. She's been following me for years. I think she's obsessed." Kwayo frowned. "Are you safe?" Binta nodded. "I gave the guards money to handle it. She won't come near me again." She said it so casually, as if Alma had never held her through storms, never fed her from an empty pot, never sacrificed her childhood for her future. In that moment, Binta erased Alma like a stain she didn't want seen by her new life. Alma sat under a mango tree outside the campus for hours. She didn't understand why Binta would do this. She had given up her dreams, her comfort, everything, for this girl. She remembered when Binta had her first fever and cried through the night. Alma stayed awake, fanning her with a piece of cardboard and praying for morning to come. She remembered sewing Binta's uniform late into the night with tired fingers. She remembered all of it. But Binta? She had forgotten. Later that day, a guard returned and threw a few notes on the ground in front of Alma. She said, "Take this and leave," he said. Alma stared at the money. Her lips quivered. She didn't touch it. The guard walked away. Alma didn't return to Lendoro that day. She didn't know where to go. Her heart wasn't just broken. It was crushed. Not by a stranger, but by the girl she loved more than her own life. The girl who now looked at her with disgust, who denied her like she never existed. That night, Alma slept on a bench near the bus station. The city was cold, loud, and cruel, just like Binta had become. And for the first time, Alma wondered if love really meant anything at all when it could be so easily forgotten. Alma didn't scream. She didn't beg. She just walked away slowly, her eyes empty, her feet dragging on the dusty ground. There were no tears, no questions, no fight left in her. The girl she had raised as her own had just thrown her away like she was nobody. People saw her disappear from the streets of Ayanda and began to whisper. Some said the pain made her mad and she wandered into the forest, never to return. Others claimed she had died alone, broken by betrayal. But they were all wrong. Alma didn't die. She didn't go mad. She simply left. She walked for hours until she reached a nearby town called Kurima, a quiet place where no one knew her name, her past, or her pain. There, she sat under a tree near the market and watched women weaving baskets. The rhythm of their hands, the focus in their eyes, the peace on their faces, it calmed her heart. One of the older women noticed her and offered her food. Orma smiled faintly and accepted. In the weeks that followed, Orma asked to learn. She swept the weaving center, helped carry firewood, cleaned tools. Slowly, the women began to teach her. She learned to weave baskets so fine that even the market sellers began to ask for hers by name. She joined the town's women's cooperative. She saved every coin she earned. Then she began planting maize on a small patch of land. She studied farming techniques, learned about business, and wrote her goals in a little notebook she carried everywhere. People in Kurima started to notice her. "Who is that quiet girl with strong hands and sharp eyes?" they'd ask. "She's building something," another would say. And she was. She was building a new life. In 1 year, Orma opened a stall. In 2 years, she opened a shop. In 3 years, she became the youngest chairperson of the women's cooperative. They called her Mama Mwanga, Mother of Light, because her story gave others hope. She trained young girls, helped widows find work, and sponsored children's education. She never spoke of her past, not once, but every evening she stood by her window, looking at the moon, as if remembering someone she once loved deeply. Behind her silence was a strength no one could measure. Orma didn't take revenge. She didn't curse Binta or try to return to Ayanda. She let time do what it does best, reveal everything. While the world thought she was broken, she was becoming whole. While others looked for her in pity, she was rising with quiet dignity. Orma's hands that once shook from hunger now built futures. Her feet that once walked barefoot through pain now stood firm in success. She didn't need to prove herself to anyone. She had already done it. Without a word, without hate, without turning cold, the girl once forgotten by the world had become unforgettable. And in the town of Kurima, her name became a legend of silent strength and unshakable love. For 5 long years, Orma vanished from everyone's memory. No one in Lendoro knew where she had gone. Her small hut stood abandoned, the garden dry, the roof falling apart. The girl who once carried a toddler on her back and roasted maize by the roadside was now just a name carried by the wind. Some villagers believed she had died of heartbreak. Others said she moved far away and changed her name, but no one truly knew. Meanwhile, in the fast city of Ayanda, Binta's life became everything she once dreamed of. She wore designer clothes, walked red carpets, and was featured in magazines. With each interview, she rewrote her story, burying the truth deeper. "I was born in a rich home in Ghana," she would say with a fake smile. "I had maids, private tutors, and summer holidays abroad." She laughed when someone asked about Lendoro. "I've never seen poverty," she replied, flipping her hair as cameras flashed. She dined with politicians, partied with celebrities, and became the face of fashion brands. People called her Queen Binta. They cheered her at events and copied her style. But as her fame grew, so did her pride. She looked down on people who spoke with accents from the village. She mocked women who sold fruits by the roadside. She erased her past so well that even she began to believe the lies she told. But deep inside, something felt empty. She had money, attention, and power. But when she went home at night, she scrolled past old photos quickly, afraid to remember the girl who once held her hand during a flood. She blocked calls from unknown numbers, scared it could be someone from her past. She avoided rural charity events. She didn't want to be reminded of where she came from. The only trace of her past was a photo tucked deep inside a locked drawer, a fading picture of 2 little girls, one holding the other tightly. Binta never showed it to anyone, never spoke of the girl in the photo. If anyone asked, she'd quickly change the topic. Orma's name became a ghost that haunted her silence. And back in Kurima, in a quiet town not far from Ayanda, Orma built her life in peace. She never mentioned Binta, not once, but sometimes at night, she'd sit alone and whisper, "I hope you're safe." That was all. The world praised Binta's glow, but none knew the light she had dimmed to shine. The girl who once starved so her sister could eat was now erased like dust from an expensive shoe. And as Binta climbed higher, stepping on her own truth, she didn't know that every lie was a seed, and one day they would all bloom into consequences. Orma's disappearance was not an end. It was the calm before the storm. When Kwayo's company decided to expand their services into rural areas, they chose Lendoro as one of their outreach points. As part of their launch, they organized a women's empowerment event to connect with the local community. Chairs were arranged under a big canopy, colorful fabrics danced in the breeze, and drums echoed through the village square. People gathered with excitement, wondering who the guest speaker would be. Then, from the side of the stage, a woman stepped forward. She wore a royal blue wrapper, her posture proud, her steps slow but firm. Her eyes carried stories of pain, strength, and survival. She stood tall, her voice steady as she spoke into the microphone. She did not introduce herself at first. She began by telling a story. I was once forgotten, thrown away, treated like nothing. I raised a child with all I had, and in return, I was denied, rejected, erased. The crowd grew silent. But I did not break. I worked. I learned. I grew. I rose. Her voice trembled with emotion, but she did not cry. She looked around the crowd, her presence commanding attention. Today, I own 14 businesses across 5 towns. I employ women who once thought they were worthless. I sponsor 30 orphan girls who remind me every day that love, when given freely, returns multiplied. There was a pause. Then someone screamed her name. Alma! Another joined. It's Alma! The crowd erupted. Villagers who thought she was long gone ran forward. Some dropped to their knees. Others clapped and sang her name. Children ran around her like she was a queen returning home. Kwayo sat quietly among the guests, confused. He leaned toward a local journalist seated beside him. Who is she? He asked. The journalist smiled, eyes wide with pride. That's Alma. She's the backbone of this village. After her heartbreak, she started again. She built 14 businesses from scratch. She trains widows, feeds orphans, pays school fees for poor children. She didn't just survive, she transformed this entire place. Kwayo was speechless. He stared at the woman on stage, wondering how such strength could live in silence for so long. Alma continued speaking, but now her message was different. She spoke of forgiving those who hurt you, of turning pain into purpose. She encouraged women to never let rejection define them. I was abandoned, she said, but I found myself, and sometimes that is the best thing that can happen. As the event ended, women rushed to hug her. Some wept in her arms. Young girls looked at her like she was a goddess. Alma stood among them, no longer a shadow from the past, but a light guiding others forward. And somewhere in Ayanda, the seeds of truth began to crack the ground, because when a name long buried is shouted again with honor, the world listens. Alma was no longer the forgotten sister. She was now a legend. When Binta heard about Alma's powerful speech, she felt anger boiling inside her. She stood up in front of the crowd during a community gathering, trying to discredit Alma. She spoke harshly, claiming that Alma was just a woman from the village trying to grab attention. She said Alma had no right to stand there and act like she was someone important. But before she could finish, an elder from the village rose from his seat, his voice booming across the crowd. "How dare you disrespect her?" he shouted. "Alma raised you like her own child. She sacrificed everything for you while you forgot where you came from." The elder's words echoed through the gathering, silencing Binta and the crowd. Alma stood quietly, calm and composed. She didn't argue or defend herself. Her strength came from her silence, and the truth spoken by the villagers who knew her story better than anyone else. Slowly, the villagers began sharing their experiences, how Alma worked tirelessly, fed the hungry, and cared for the orphan. They reminded everyone how she had sacrificed her own happiness and dreams to raise Binta when no one else would. The people's voices grew louder, their support unmistakable. Meanwhile, word of the confrontation reached Kwayo's family. Kwayo's mother was a proud woman with sharp eyes and a keen sense of justice. She started her own investigation, speaking with villagers, listening carefully to the truth behind the rumors. She saw the sacrifices Alma made and understood the betrayal Binta was hiding. The truth was clear. Binta had tried to erase Alma from her life to protect her own image, and even lied to Kwayo about the woman who raised her. That very evening, Kwayo called off the engagement. He met Binta with a serious look in his eyes. "I cannot marry a woman who lies to climb her way up," he said firmly. "The person you betrayed, the one who loved you most, is the one who raised you with her heart and soul. If you can treat her like this, how can I trust you to be honest or loyal to me?" Binta's world crumbled. The pride she wore like armor shattered in an instant. Kwayo's rejection was a public statement of her fall from grace. She had lost not only a fiancé, but the respect of the village. and her true family. This was the moment when Binta realized that money, false pride, and social status could never replace love, loyalty, and the sacrifices made by someone who truly cared for her. The villagers, who once whispered about Binta's arrogance and lies, now openly spoke about the courage and kindness of Alma. Binta's fall was swift and harsh, but the village's heart belonged to Alma. It was clear that true strength comes not from wealth or status, but from sacrifice, love, and staying true to one's roots. The story of betrayal and broken ties was a lesson to all. Love cannot be bought, and those who betray it will eventually lose everything. And so, Binta's rise ended not with cheers, but with silence and regret. Meanwhile, Alma stood tall, not just as a survivor, but as a hero to her people. Months passed, and the village of Lendoro watched a shocking change in Binta's life. Once dressed in fine clothes and surrounded by wealth, she was now seen walking the dusty streets alone, her hair messy and unkempt. People whispered as she applied for small, low-paying jobs, shops, markets, even cleaning work. No one trusted her anymore. Her past arrogance and lies had caught up with her, and doors that were once open were now firmly closed. Binta had lost everything she had built with lies and betrayal. Meanwhile, Alma's life had taken a completely different path. She wasn't just a simple woman from the village anymore. She had risen to a place of respect and power. She sat on the Lendoro Council, advising the village leaders and helping shape decisions that would improve everyone's lives. More importantly, she spent her time empowering women, sponsoring orphans, and rebuilding the community that had once seen her as just a struggling girl. Alma's success was quiet but strong, built on years of hard work, sacrifice, and unwavering love. When asked by curious villagers why she never publicly humiliated or sought revenge on Binta, Alma gave a simple but powerful answer. "I'm not revenge," she said calmly. "I'm reflection." Let her see herself clearly. Her words shocked many, but they also made people think deeply. Alma chose not to break Binta down publicly, because true justice was not about punishment, but about making someone face their own truth. Alma's final words echoed through the village and soon spread beyond. "The deepest wounds come from those closest to us," she said, "but sometimes silence is the loudest justice." These words carried the weight of her entire journey. How betrayal hurts most when it comes from someone you love, but how peace can come from forgiveness and quiet strength. It was a lesson, not just for Binta, but for everyone watching the story unfold. Her message was clear. Never betray the hand that fed you. When lies are built on the foundation of love and trust, they will always collapse without warning once the truth rises. Binta's fall was a painful reminder of that truth. She had tried to erase the one person who sacrificed everything for her, only to lose her own place in the world. In the end, Alma's silence and grace were more powerful than any revenge. She let Binta's actions speak for themselves, allowing the truth to shine through the darkness of betrayal. The village remembered Alma not just as a survivor, but as a symbol of hope and integrity. This story teaches a lesson that resonates deeply. Love and loyalty cannot be replaced by wealth or status. Betrayal from those closest to us wounds the deepest, but the greatest strength is in forgiveness and rising above pain. Alma's journey from sacrifice to leadership inspired many, proving that true power lies in the heart and the courage to keep going, even when broken. And so, the tale of Alma and Binta ended with a truth that will never fade, that the hand that feeds deserves respect, and when the truth finally rises, lies will always fall. If this story touched your heart, remember that true love and loyalty are priceless. Sometimes, those closest to us can hurt us the most, but it's our strength, forgiveness, and quiet resilience that help us rise again. Alma showed us how sacrifice and kindness can build a legacy far greater than wealth or fame. She chose reflection over revenge, proving that real power lies in grace and courage. Think about the people in your life. Are you appreciating those who have supported you through thick and thin? Are you staying true to your roots, no matter where life takes you? This story is a reminder to never forget where you come from, and to always honor those who lifted you up, even when times got tough. If you believe in the power of love, loyalty, and the strength to forgive, then please, don't keep this message to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs hope today. Let's spread stories that inspire kindness and courage in a world that so desperately needs it. And if you want more heartfelt stories that touch the soul and teach life lessons, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us bring you more powerful stories every week. Thank you so much for watching and being part of our community. Together, we can share the light of hope, love, and truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps more people hear this important message. Stay strong, stay kind, and see you in the next story.